Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Jurassic Park Monsters and Mayhem podcast video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another entry here. So far the views have been again so-so, but I am seeing more comments associated with the videos. It's all about the algorithms. The more that people see it, the more that people like and comment it, then the more that YouTube then starts recommending them as suggestions to others. And I'm still having a lot of fun, so definitely I want to put out more of these videos soon. In this case, this will be a good example of the avenues that I'm going with. Here, I'm going to talk about a dinosaur. It was actually featured not just in several of the films, but also within the Netflix series and so on. But I want to talk about the novel version. So in other words, the actual dinosaur, but from the novel that it was described in. That's why I love the idea of this series, this playlist, because it gives me the chance to talk about various versions of each dinosaur depending on the medium that it's in. So in another video, I might talk about the same dinosaur, but how it was featured on film and so on. This dinosaur, though, I actually consider to be one of the scariest, if not the most deadly dinosaur on the island itself. In fact, it was so deadly, even the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex itself stayed away from its territory. That gives you an idea of just how impactful this dinosaur is. When you have the apex predator like that deciding to stay away, this is definitely a creature that is to be feared. I wish it was featured more along the characteristics I'm going to describe here in a minute on film, but alas, it never happened. But here we're going to talk about this. It's known as the Carnotaurus, and again, this video will specifically feature its version from the novel, the Lost World Jurassic Park novel. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that here, and then I'd love to hear what your thoughts and comments on it are afterward. So here's essentially the Carnotaurus from the Lost World Jurassic Park novel. It was a dinosaur that was, of course, created by InGen, much like most, if not all, of the other dinosaurs afterward. When it comes to its initial introduction to the island, it was, at least compared to the film version, it was actually much smaller within the novel itself. At its highest height, you're looking at about 7 feet tall. So it gives you an idea that if you have your average man of about 6 feet, this will just be a little bit taller. But there were several distinctive things associated with it, several characteristics. Number one, there was these bony protuberances, almost like horns, that were right above its eye area and made it look like a bull. It no doubt used this type of characteristics to be able to fight, maybe even do some kind of dangerous movements with it if it was stalking any sorts of prey, and maybe it was even using it for mating purposes. Like, in other words, like real life animals have large horns and they try to show it off to some of the other females. It may have had that feature too. Then it also had these bulldog-like snouts, very large ones. But there's a prominent part of the novel where one of the characters hears what sounds like its snout, the way it was breathing and so on. And then its eyes were very distinctive too. A lot of fan theories are that the eyes were more on the lines of a chameleon. The idea that those eyes could move in separate areas at the same time. So one eye, let's say on the left side, could be looking up, and then on the right side, the other eye could be looking down, and they were just moving in different directions of each other, or the eyes itself could just be regular dinosaur eyes. But by far, the most distinctive thing associated with it is this: its chameleon feature. It's the way that it was expertly camouflaging itself within the environment. This is why I consider it to be one of the most deadliest, if not the deadliest, dinosaur within the actual island. And with that camouflage, this is what it would do. Anywhere it was featured, let's say if it was walking around the forest or even walking around certain buildings, the chapters that it was in described that as well, it would immediately blend into that environment. In fact, the scales that are associated with it were expertly able to blend into any environment, any shadows, almost to the point that it was completely just almost indistinguishable from the environment itself. Think about that for a minute. As deadly as these dinosaurs are already, can you imagine this thing? You'd have to keep looking at the direction of it, and you think something is there, but only if it slightly moves do you then get to realize that something truly is standing in front of you. It looks almost invisible. And unlike, let's say, another famous creature like involving the predator within those other films, you know, it had almost like a refraction that made it stand out more. This thing did not. It was so perfectly camouflaged that it was almost invisible. Keyword being almost. It was still discernible, but you would have to stare at it, and that's where, of course, the issue becomes. Then that's when it does its attack. And the next thing that makes it very deadly is it hunted in packs. There were notable parts within the novel where it was basically on the hunt for some of the characters that were going around a village, and when that happened, they noticed that there was something there within the background, somewhere within the scenery. And then they realized that there were several of them there. They were ready to ambush these poor people. They were ready to basically let the either the people come to them or vice versa. And then when it was obviously too late to realize that something is just standing right there in front of them, that's when they were going to ambush, and then that was it. So you have the pack mentality of the raptors, like when it comes to hunting in groups, and then you have that expert camouflage associated with it, and then of course you have its own deadly carnivorous traits, like it's always on the hunt, ready to eat, ready to have other prey, and so on. That's the type of creature that the characters within the Lost World Jurassic Park novel were dealing with. I think again that is something that is pretty scary. The idea is also mentioned that this thing was so good at its job that the Tyrannosaurus Rex actually stayed away from its own territory. It was not going to go anywhere close associated with it, if but for one fact. These creatures were only as deadly as can be at night. If there was something within the daytime, it was harder for them to camouflage. They could still do so, but obviously the sunlight and the lighter environments caused more of its body to be able to be seen. And so that's why it was, at least in the novel, a nocturnal creature. It was absolutely just awake at night, hunting at night, and that's when the Tyrannosaurus Rex and other dinosaurs would stay away from its territory during the nighttime. So one could presume that during the rest of the day itself, that they was just sleeping. Maybe they have their own little cave or wherever it was, but otherwise in that territory at night, it was the apex predator there. Just pretty scary. Again, the idea that this thing is going to be able to just stay around in an area and you won't even know it's there until it's too late. I wish that this type of dinosaur, the way its camouflage was moving and so on, was featured as the Carnotaurus within the film itself. It actually did make an appearance within the second film, The Fallen Kingdom of Jurassic World, but none of its camouflage-like features were associated there, and it was changed for it being almost, bigger, like almost the size of the T-Rex itself, and then it made another appearance at the end of the film. One, at least when it was there on the island and then the volcano was exploding, and then the other one when it was at the mansion. But again, there was no indication of it being associated with any kind of that deadly, very deadly camouflage. Now, the weakness with that camouflage was this. It could only work based on its environment. So if there was all of a sudden a change in the environment, whether it's by light or something else, then it would get quote-unquote caught. Once it was exposed to light, there was that very small opportunity where you could see it still with its older environment. So in other words, if it was camouflaged to look like a dark alley and all of a sudden the light was turned on, for just a few moments, its body was still reflecting what it was when it was the darker environment, or vice versa. And so the way that the characters were able to escape this creature was through the use of forced lights. Like they would turn on and turn off the lights around the environment, and then that confused the Carnotaurus. It realized that it was basically got and so they decided to move elsewhere just to make sure that nothing would happen to them, and that they were exposed. So that was pretty ingenious of those people around, but that's one of the other weaknesses associated with this creature. Now, it was featured in other formats as well. Like, it was supposed to be in Jurassic Park 3, but it turns out that this other film that was going to come out from Disney called Dinosaur, it in turn would have a major role within it, like the same dinosaur type, the Carnotaurus. So when that occurred, it was scrapped, and instead there was another creature that was introduced in Jurassic Park 3, but it still is within the novel, the junior novel associated with the film of Jurassic Park 3, and then it makes its appearance within several of the comic books, the IDW comic books. It's even featured on one of the covers, and then it has multiple instances of it showing its deadly rampage, where it's going into a small town, killing not just the farmers, but several of their livestock as well, and then being able to be almost as deadly as, let's say, the T-Rex itself. There's no indication, though, that it was anything as far as the camouflage associated with the novel itself, but if that's incorrect, then someone please let me know in the comments below. But yeah, what do you guys think about this particular creature, Carnotaurus, the one at least from the Lost World Jurassic Park novel? I loved reading it, the way it was introduced, the way people saw it within the novel itself, and again, I wish, considering those very deadly characteristics, how it would have been featured within the films. The closest we got was, of course, the Indominus Rex that was in the Lost World, within Jurassic World. There you got to see it at certain points expertly camouflaged. Imagine something like that, but introduced to a smaller animal, smaller than the T-Rex itself, and then the idea of having like at least hunger associated with the T-Rex and other carnivorous animals, and that's essentially what you would have here. But the novel gives the impression that it camouflages even better than the Indominus Rex, again, to the point where it is almost completely indistinguishable from its surroundings. That is the most scariest thing to me. But let me know what you guys think. Please post your comments below. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.